We're joined today by Tony Ford, Managing Director of Marston's.
Thank you,
Marston's Telecoms. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us, Tony. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Rather than me kind of put together what I think Marston's is and what you're doing in the newly appointed role, could we kind of ask you just to give us a bit of background as to yourself and Marston's Telecoms?
My name is Tony Ford. I'm the Managing Director now of Marston's Telecoms. I spent a lifetime in this industry, going back to the early 90s, where I worked as a consultant for some major institutions like British Airways and Apple and other companies, and I spent traveling around the world just looking at networks and Wi-Fi mainly. And then I started an ISP with a colleague back in the early days of the ISPs. Yep. And of course, one of our first customers was Marston's, who were then called Banks's, or Wolverhampton Dudley Brewers, and they were a major customer of ours, and we deployed networks and comms and Wi-Fi into that infrastructure. Okay. And my relationship was always there. And so when I sold out of the ISP business, I actually went as a consultant to Marston's.
Right. Okay.
And I have been in the background creating or helping them create Telecoms as it is today. So back in 2008, they had a need, if you like, to actually save money, so that's really where the focus was.
Yep.
And then they realised that actually this is a service business, and they are in the service business.
Certainly, yeah.
And so there was some correlation and some synergy, and then they actually thought, well, actually we can now take this out to market. So Telecoms today is a major ISP. It has an infrastructure to die for. It has, from an investment point of view, it's had a tremendous amount of investment from PLC, and it's enabled it now to be, it's capable of actually running somewhere along about 10 times or 20 times that of what PLC stands for today.
Right, okay.
So we have an enormous infrastructure. And as we are growing, we're putting more and more people onto the ground now, so we're finding that from a resource point of view, we now have a sales department, we have an infrastructure to support anything, and we're growing. And as we grow, we will develop even more people. So, and Marston's is really all about its people.
Okay, excellent. Tony, thank you very much indeed for that.
My pleasure.
Tony, one of the main subjects for today is SD-WAN and Comms365 and the services that we offer and we've offered to you, which thankfully Marston's has picked up and run with as a service. So I guess my first question for you is, why have you, Marston's, decided to deploy SD-WAN technology in your core?
Let me answer a different sort of question. Okay. The PLC infrastructure is all MPLS, and but that we found that was a very heavy commitment for anyone. So as a very large organisation, we actually can afford to go into that sort of area, but we found it very restrictive, and it wasn't really in line with what was happening in the environment or within our actual industry, is that people were looking for simpler routes to achieve the same goals.
Okay.
And so obviously we engage with yourselves and believe that actually that is the way forward. We need to actually be able to offer other products that are actually simpler but achieve the same goal.
Right, okay.
And so that's really why we chose to go that route, but there are obviously other benefits for that too.
Okay, and if you perhaps didn't, if you hadn't kind of taken that route, where would you be from a product set? So clearly, probably back to MPLS, you would be offering it as a service. Do you feel there's a technological advantage to kind of jumping one step ahead and offering something new?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we have to keep ahead of ourselves, and the technology changes that are in the network now mean that we can actually adapt to our customers' needs.
Right.
So we're not constraining them or restraining them to actually be able to do what they need to do. And with the advent of cloud coming into more and more of the daily processes of businesses today, we have to be ahead and be able to offer them something that actually allows them to grow within that environment.
Right.
So by taking it, not doing it, is actually a mistake.
Right.
By not offering it and not being able to offer it meant that we weren't actually the people that we say that we are. We are not different. We aren't, but we are. So we want to be able to say to them, look, hang on a second, if you've got a problem, this is how you can actually, go through and actually, sort of solve your problems by going to something that you can manage yourselves. Rather than us dictating through an MPLS structure how it should be done. But that was the reason that we actually think that the only way to solve people's future problems is the SD-WAN route.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And interesting, you mentioned UC and other services and cloud-based services. So I think one of the things that, from our perspective, when we're selling the technology to service providers to enable the core, is what it enables you then to do for your customers in terms of how you can manage hosted voice and applications and so on and so forth on that.
Sure.
Would you say it gives you a platform to effectively then create your own services and your own service wrap?
It's exactly that. I mean, in fact, it goes one step further. What the SD-WAN capability gives us is the ability to actually meet people's needs. And actually really address those needs, rather than taking a hybrid view of everything and say, look, well, back in the old days of MPLS, we would always say, well, you can have DSL, but actually we don't have anything to take over DSL, so it's MPLS from the core, not from the edge. Right. And then we used to have this argument about, well, what's the point of having it then?
Yeah.
Because actually that class of service cannot be driven down to the actual premises where it works from. And so with this sort of technology, we're actually saying that we can take it right to the very edge of the customer.
Yes.
And allow them to actually start controlling. And then when you've got particular, whether it's applications or whatever type of process that you're working in, and you need to be able to accelerate it or understand how that works within your network, or what strain it's causing on your network, you need to be able to have a control. But it meant in the past that it was a very high cost to achieve. So inside your vertical, you were sort of like waiting on 3 or 4 people above you to actually answer those.
Yes.
And people outsourced a lot more, they spent a lot more money actually getting control of their own network, rather than actually spending more time actually getting their work done or their focus on their own businesses.
Sure.
So for us, it actually addresses not to just the fact that they can now have the capability that they never had before, but actually now they've enabled to actually be empowered to do more with it.
Yes. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for that. I much appreciated. Great answer. I guess the million-dollar question: why did you choose Comms365's SD-WAN services?
And that's a really good question. And to be honest, it's the entrepreneurial side of this business that is what we're seeking. It's the actual people that are similar-minded to ourselves, because we don't know what it's going to really look like. The future is different. The future is interesting. And having organizations that are rigid in the way that they are approach solutions and approach changes within the things that we're looking for within our network and within industry, we need a partner that actually will go with us. And the journey is all about learning. It's not about fixed ideas. And it's so that was why. So we were, when we looked at you, we were impressed more about the people than the tech, and
Okay.
which is
I'll take that. That's a good one.
because the tech is there,
Yes.
right? But it's actually, when you talk to institutions, they're not too sure. They're selling a product. They're not selling the solution or the dream or the future. They're saying, this is what we've got now, and this is how you're going to use it. But actually, I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
Yes. Yeah.
And I want someone that I can go to and say, hey, look, this is coming up, how are we going to deal with this?
Yeah.
And that's why Comms365 are important to me.
And the interesting piece, just picking up on that, because as you and I know from our earlier discussions, we have some other services within that SD-WAN. So I think one of the things that I've always thought is a great strength to the product specifically is the ability for it to do more than just an SD-WAN on that one device. And we touched on earlier that in your particular vertical, predominantly hospitality, and what that impact of those other services, within that wrap may have for them.
And that's another reason to talk to Comms365, and that's because we know that when you have a backup service or you have some sort of bonding capability, we know that our business is changes from day to day, and we never know when demand is going to outstrip our current situation. So if we have because we put Ethernet in all of our sites, but that doesn't mean to say that that's always enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes things go wrong, and we need to be able to continue that business. So for us, a very, very high spending or high income site needs to be able to continue, and we have to provide services that enable that to happen. We cannot be ignorant of the fact that things go wrong.
Yeah.
And so we have to put inside a situation where we can actually keep that site rolling.
So the 4G, the failover, and
Everything.
so on. Yeah. Okay, great, excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's great. Tony, what advice would you give to other resellers thinking of selling SD-WAN?
In my opinion, they don't have a choice now. I mean, if they want to get into the market or get to a product where they can actually achieve better returns and better, and because this is a quick process, so SD-WAN gives them it's a faster process to get them actually get their customers on board.
Yeah.
And we keep forgetting that SD-WAN provides, it's basically a contract killer. In my opinion, is if you're out there today and you find a customer and you're going through the process of moving them to their WAN onto yours, and then they say, actually we've got to stop because we realise that one of our links is still 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And so what that's doing to them is that they should say, well, sorry, but we're not going to do it. You have to come back in 6 months' time. What the SD-WAN approach says is actually they can actually take that on board now and actually bring that back onto the network, and then as soon as that comes up for renewal, you just slide it over. Yeah. So what we're saying,
the network agnostic element of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. What it means is that we are enabling sales to occur rather than to be an objective. An objection not to do it.
Yes.
So for any reseller today, if you are not doing SD-WAN, you're not fulfilling you're missing out on the sales, or you're not fulfilling your sales that you could actually go for, because you're taking away that reason not to come over to you.
Yeah. And perhaps the coexistence of MPLS as well, in infill and bringing on new sites while the MPLS contract works through to expiry.
It actually is an MPLS killer in a way, because what we're saying is it doesn't matter what's there. As long as you've got the infrastructure to take it to the internet, actually we can take those circuits on. And then once they're up for renewal, you then pass them over. So what we're actually saying, SD-WAN is the sales generator.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so therefore anybody that's not in that game today is making a mistake, in my opinion.
Excellent. Thank you. Tony, why did you choose Comms365 as a partner?
Comms365 represent to me entrepreneurship actually at its core. It actually, for me, I identify with the people there and how they take all their products and their concepts and ideas and they take them to market. What I didn't really want to choose is partners that are constrained by their product set or by their people. And I wanted a company that could go on a journey with us and grow with us and actually be adaptable and almost like really moldable by us, because we want to shape them as well. What we didn't want is a company that was so rigid that they can only do one thing for us. So when we looked at Comms365, it was about what we thought you were going to be rather than what you are.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, appreciate that. Much appreciated. Okay, and so how's the reality of that been? What's been the experience of working with Comms365 to date?
It ticked the boxes for us. I mean, our expectation is that when you are driving new tech and etc., that you want problems, because you actually want. If you don't have problems, you're not learning from it and you're not building on it and developing it. So it actually it ticked every box that we had, and what we were more interested in is how the relationship will be defined in the future and how important you could actually be to us. And I don't just mean from the products you do today, but actually the way that you are thinking and the way that you're growing meant that we know that it's the space that we need to be in.
Sure.
And of course we are now seeing you as an authority within things like IoT and other areas, and it's just not, you know, we don't want to label you, because actually labeling you is a mistake. And what we really want to do is say, well, where are we going? What can we do together? Because there's some things that we have that you don't have, and there are things that you have that we don't have. So together we become a very powerful story.
True, absolutely.
And so I think that expectations were very high in the people, but actually we set low expectations on everything else, because it wasn't really about what you have today, it was who you are today.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. And what would you say to anybody else that was thinking of partnering with us?
Well, for the marketplace and where the future is in future in tech, is that they should be engaging with you now, because we don't know what's coming around the corner for us. And so if we are honest, we need more Comms365s in our lives, and so therefore anybody out there who's thinking about their future and what the market's going to look like in 10 years should be talking to you today.
That's great. I like that stuff. We need more Comms365s in our lives. I think we should have that on the bottom of our website. Excellent. Tony, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.